Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Easy English Talk channel, where we dive into everything related to learning and mastering the English language. My name is Jason, your host, and I'm so excited to be here today with a very important topic. It's something that almost every English learner faces at some point in their journey. I understand English, but I can't speak. Now, if you're listening to this, I'm sure you've experienced that frustrating moment where you can understand someone perfectly in English. You follow along in conversations, you grasp what's being said in movies, or even understand complex instructions at work. But when it's your turn to speak, suddenly your mind goes blank. The words get stuck in your throat, or worse, you second-guess every sentence you try to form. Sound familiar? If so, you're definitely not alone. Today I'm going to take you through why this happens, and more importantly, how to overcome it. This podcast is going to be loaded with practical advice, real-world examples, and concrete tips that will help you unlock your speaking potential. So, whether you're listening on your morning commute, cooking dinner, or just relaxing at home, stay tuned. Let's start by breaking down why so many learners of English can understand it, but have trouble speaking. This is something that happens across all languages, not just English. Think about this. Have you ever heard someone say, "I understand Spanish, but I can't speak it"? Or, "I get what they're saying in French, but I don't feel confident enough to respond"? This is a global challenge. Why does it happen? First, there's a key distinction between passive and active language skills. Passive skills involve receiving information, like listening and reading, while active skills involve producing information, like speaking and writing. Listening is easier because it's a one-way street. You're just absorbing information and your brain is processing it, but there's no immediate pressure to respond. On the other hand, speaking requires several things to happen all at once. You need to find the right words, put them in the correct order, and pronounce them clearly, all while under the pressure of the moment. And if English isn't your first language, your brain is doing all this in real time while trying to translate from your native language to English. No wonder it feels hard. Let's say you're in a situation where someone asks you a simple question, like, "How was your weekend?" Now you understand this question perfectly. You know they're asking about what you did during the past 2 days, but suddenly, when it's your turn to respond, you freeze. You know the words are there somewhere. You might even know how to respond. "My weekend was great. I went to the park, had lunch with a friend, and watched a movie." Simple, right? But here's the thing. Your brain starts analyzing every word. Is "went to the park" the right way to say it? Should I use a more complex sentence? How do I pronounce that word? All of this overthinking slows you down. But think about this. Have you ever spoken your native language and paused to analyze every word that came out of your mouth? Of course not. That's because speaking your native language is automatic. It's reflexive. And that's where we want to get with English. We want speaking to feel natural, easy, and automatic. So how do we do that? Many English learners think the reason they can't speak is because they don't know enough words. While vocabulary is important, confidence is just as crucial, if not more so. Even if you know a lot of words, if you're not confident enough to use them, they'll just stay locked in your brain. Here's a real-life example. There was a study conducted by a language learning institute, and it found that students who were more confident in speaking, whether or not their grammar was perfect, had far more successful conversations than those who had perfect grammar, but hesitated constantly. The confident speakers were able to convey their message more effectively, even if they made small mistakes. In fact, 78% of participants said they preferred speaking with someone who was confident but made mistakes over someone who spoke perfectly but hesitated a lot. One way to boost your confidence is to practice speaking without the pressure of a real conversation. This might sound strange, but one of the best ways to do this is to talk to yourself. Yes, I said it. Talk to yourself in English. Start small. Describe what you're doing. For example, if you're cooking dinner, narrate the process in English. I'm chopping onions. I'm boiling water for pasta. This gets you used to forming sentences in real time. Another fantastic method is to shadow native speakers. Find a YouTube video or a podcast where someone is speaking in English. Pause the video every few seconds and repeat exactly what they said. Mimic their pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation. This is called the shadowing technique, and it's been proven to help language learners become more fluent and confident speakers. Building your speaking skills doesn't happen overnight. It's like learning to play an instrument or working out at the gym. It takes consistent practice over time. But the key here is consistent practice. If you only practice speaking once a month, progress will be slow. However, if you dedicate just 10 to 15 minutes every day to speaking out loud, whether you're practicing by yourself, with a language partner, or through a language exchange app, you will start to see results. Here's another important statistic. In a study conducted by Cambridge University, language learners who spoke for just 10 minutes a day over a 3-month period improved their speaking skills by an average of 45%. Think about that for a second. Just 10 minutes of speaking practice a day can lead to almost 50% improvement in your fluency over 3 months. That's powerful. Now let's talk about some common mistakes that learners make when trying to speak. One of the biggest mistakes is focusing too much on grammar. Yes, grammar is important, but when it comes to conversation, communication is more important. If you're so focused on using perfect grammar, you'll hesitate and lose your flow. Instead, aim for fluency over accuracy. It's okay to make mistakes. Native speakers make them all the time. Another mistake is avoiding speaking because you're afraid of making mistakes. This is one of the worst things you can do because the only way to improve your speaking is by actually speaking. Think about it like riding a bike. You're going to fall a few times, but if you don't get back on the bike, you'll never learn how to ride. Speaking works the same way. Let me tell you a story about a learner I once worked with named Ahmed. Ahmed was from Egypt, and he had been studying English for over 5 years. He could understand English perfectly. He'd watch movies without subtitles. He could read English novels, and he did well in his English exams. But when it came to speaking, he'd freeze up. He'd get so nervous that even simple sentences like, "I'm going to the store," would come out as, store, I go. After working with Ahmed for a few months, we realized the problem wasn't his English knowledge. He knew the language. The problem was his confidence. So we focused on speaking practice, but without any pressure. I had him start small, just talking about his day for 5 minutes each morning. Then we moved on to more structured conversations. Within a few months, Ahmed's speaking improved dramatically. The words flowed more naturally, and he stopped second-guessing himself. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Easy English Talk channel. I hope you found today's episode helpful, and I encourage you to take these tips and put them into practice. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review or sharing it with a friend who might find it helpful. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.